All right. How's everybody doing? This is a big celebration. I first just want to humbly say thank you to Crystal and Michael and Colin, Patrick, all the team that made this happen. Also the serving staff that's in the back, the hotel workers, all these folks for making this happen. So I was thinking of how to start this panel. And I was like, well, do I want to come in through a company angle or an organizer angle? And I thought about it and I went back and I prayed, and I want to come to you as a father and as a son and as a husband. 10 years ago, I unexpectedly lost my father. He went in for a back surgery and he never came out. And my father was the most important man in my life. And I had to deal with all these issues of grief and loss. And I started to really explore, like, why did he die at the age of 66? And why was it so hard for him to say, mijo, I love you? Or why was it so hard for him to say, I love you and I need help? I started to unpack and I realized the same conditions and behaviors that led my dad to pass, I had inherited myself. Not just from my family, but also from the society that we live in. 3 months ago, I came out with a book called Sacred Lessons, Teaching My Father How to Love. And I've been blessed and honored to travel the country. In the last 3.5 months, I've gone to 7 states, 25 cities, and spoken to over 6,000 people, predominantly men. And I will share 2 things. One is men of all ages, all identities, are holding an immense amount of pain. Immense amount of grief and feeling like we're alone and don't know how and who to go to. But the second thing, which is why I'm so grateful to be at the Indigenous House, is the other story that's not being told is the story of men that are really trying to be better people, really going to therapy, really getting in touch with the cultural practices and trying to remember who we are as a people. So this conversation, it's called Sacred Lessons, Exploring Men's Healing. And it's a start in an ongoing conversation, but I'm so honored to be joined up here by 3 incredible people. DJ MC1 gave me the warning that I'm going to introduce all 3, and all 3 will come up at the same time because we got to have music introduce these incredible people, incredible men. So first, DJ MC1, who really is at the forefront of using music as a way to center culture, community, and connection. When I think about indigenous sounds and music, I think about him. Eric Michael Hernandez, an incredible person who's bringing the hoop dance back, who has this incredible film, if you haven't seen, called Courage, that is really his life story, but it's actually all of our story, about how the medicine we need is actually in our culture and in our DNA, and if we take the courage to remember that, we'll be one again. And last, Tosh Collins, where is he? My brother. We got to break some bare root in the back and talk about our ancestors and our cultures. Not only is he an author of an incredible book, but he's literally at the forefront of men's healing in Indian country. When you think about how do we invite people in rather than calling people out, is through Thosh and so many people. So if you can please give a big round of applause as these men join us up on stage. Time for some action. Come on. That is perfect. Look at that. Well, first off, thank you so much for being up here, for the work that you do. I want to thank your ancestors, but also your partners for allowing you to be here and your families. We oftentimes travel, like myself, and someone's at the home taking care of the kids, so just thank you. I want to just start, first question, we can go down the line. Maybe Tosh will go like this. But so much of masculinity and manhood is defined by what we provide for the family, how we protect the family, but our worth is defined really by our values, by our work. Can you share what was one of the first ways that you learned of like what it means to be a man? Was it an experience, a story, or something?
Well, Skook Dash, everyone. Good to be here. Really honored to be up here, to be sitting alongside these gentlemen here, and to be sitting with Mike and in front of you all. And just want to acknowledge each and every one of you, and grateful that you're here today. And looking forward to this conversation. And yeah, great conversation to open this up with. And really, I think back to my history and being raised on the reservation, where it was really you're privileged to be a part of a generation, my dad and his generation, who were revitalizing a lot of things in the community. And one of our ceremonies was called for a men's circle. And in that circle there, we learned about fasting, and there was lots of other important tasks that we had to do to play our role within the ceremony, and things that, sort of are kind of popular today, cold plunge and such things that our people have been doing for a long time. And yeah, that's what a part of that. And they used to tell us, they says that they would make us get in there as young boys, 8, 9, 10, it'd be freezing cold, and we'd come out and they'd say that this is to increase your grit. And I used to think it was very something that had to do with my physical self here and there. But as I get older, then I realize, I see that they're talking about your grit to overcome adversity. But through that whole process, through this men's circles and gathering, and throughout my 20-something years of traveling Native country, it's very clear that indigenous masculinity is rooted in reciprocity. It's rooted in protectorship. It's rooted in understanding that we have a very sacred role within this greater web of life here. That our role within that is we are one half of providing life. And that we have a sacred responsibility in that. And part of our ontological male identity is understanding that self-actualization. He's understanding his spiritual purpose and his role, that as he travels through this life here, there's a path here that welcomes him to be a part of that. And that his role is also an accessory to the other important roles that are outside of his domain, such as the women, our two-spirit relatives, children, elderly people. And I think part of that male identity is understanding that his role is dependent on them, and they are dependent on him. And with respect to their role, that he benefits from allowing them to play their role and creating a safe space for that role as well. So I think that these are real critical things. And one of the biggest discernments between us and Western patriarchy is that native masculine identity isn't. It's not about dominion, right, over land and women. It's one that's in service, that's understanding reciprocity. And so it's a sacred role that the man must have, understanding this first the vision that he has, but also understanding the steps that he has to take in order to fulfill that vision, which is his places in community. It's on the land, it's hands-on, it's intellect, it's spiritual maturity in all various aspects. So I think, from my experience on the res and traveling Native country, not just from my own community, but traveling Native country, those are the things that, I've arrived at over time to understand and see that. And then also, I learned a lot about my masculinity from watching my mother, watching, even what my wife expects of me, what my 2 daughters expect of me. Those things that helps me to formulate, I learn about being, my masculine identity is taught not to me just by other men displaying it, but by the women in my life as well, or what the Two-Spirit community also asks of us as well, and that teaches us. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Man, I gotta follow after Tosh on how to be a man. No, I'm just kidding. My name's Eric Hernandez. I'm a member of the Lumbee tribe from North Carolina, and very honored to be here. Growing up in a broken home, my dad kind of not being around too often, I felt like I kind of had to redefine what I thought it meant to be a man. Growing up as the youngest of 3 boys as well, I watched my 2 older brothers really follow in my dad's footsteps, incredible athletes. I didn't have too much success in sports. I found success and expression through dance. And I think that the lane that I've found that has allowed me to have an impact on our community is showing the strength of vulnerability as a man, showing the strength of expression, which I think is a big thing that men deal with, and that's where I've found my most strength, is just finding the courage to share my authentic truth. I'm not trying to be nobody else. I'm not trying to be more manly than I think I really am. I'm just trying to be me. All of my power that I can carry in this world is through me tapping into me, and I want to be that for my children, my future children. I'm honored to be up here with these incredible men who have families and strong women by their side, and I strive to be, just like you guys, very inspired by these men I'm sitting here with.
Oh, yeah. Clap it up. Oh, go. I got to follow all y'all. Man, I'm bringing the chubby over here. It's okay. It's all right. I'm going to get my workout in soon enough. Don't worry. Don't you worry. I'm catching up. But as far as the man in my life that you're asking about was like similar to what you're saying. The man was gone. He was missing. So my mom was 13, pregnant. I went to 8th grade twice. First time I went with her to alternative school. Second time I was an 8th grader. So men was missing. So the idea of masculinity and how to form that, when you say, who taught you to be a man? I'm like, I'm still trying to learn. I'm still in this game as a student, so I'm trying to figure it out. And like what Tosh was saying is accurate. I got most of my masculinity from my grandma. So my grandma was the one who raised me up to figure how to be the man she wanted me to be. That might not be the way you would think. So when thought she said that, I was like, oh, dang, that's exactly like I got mine from the void. And then men that did come around, they were untrustworthy. They were maybe harmful. And so I grew up not really relating well to men. I could get along better with women simply because that's who I was around and felt more comfortable with. And men could potentially be dangerous in my history as growing up. So I was always a little guarded with men. And but I was thankful that my grandma was the one to be able to tell me what she wanted out of a man. And then I felt like that helped. It wasn't until high school that I get in one of these relationships, and then I get the fear of loss, and that's when the toxicity comes out. And I was like, oh, well, if I lose this girl, see, the programming of possession and the programming of objectifying, and now unlocked all this scarcity, and all those toxicities come out. Like, oh, now I don't want to be one of those men that grandma didn't want me to be to begin with. So, short answer is, my grandma's the one who helped me learn how to be a man, and I'm still learning.
Thank you. Let's stay with this. Let's tease this out. And I was sharing earlier, we have a script, but spirits will take this where it needs to go. So, what I really find profound is all three of you were talking about how you were learning from the women in your life, right? Some of us had fathers or father figures and some of us didn't. But ultimately, this issue of gender is an issue of power and control. But also, Adrienne Maree Brown says that we're living in someone's imagination. Like somebody thought it was okay for men to dominate the land, the people, the sky, everything else. Said it enough times where it became policy and it became truth. From your guys' experiences, I guess we can go the same way. In this time, gender, like race, is a construct, right? We're talking about energy, and we both encompass all these energies. When we think about redefining masculinity and manhood, how do you take that, what is, what should be, into like how you're trying to be a better person that shows up as a man?
I always, with any sort of endeavor, I think in contemporary times, coming from indigenous lens, indigenous standpoint, I always take into account the historic practice, indigenous ways of knowing and being. There's that. There's also my lived experience as well. And there's also sometimes I take into account what I like science and data. So I look at that as well. And I feel like navigating this world, we learn to find out, what is working for me here. what reassessing situations and how we carry ourselves in community. So for me, my basis, my foundation is always what is the himadag of the Autumn Church. What is the way of life of men, and how is he supposed to carry himself in etiquette and community? And since things are shifting in this day and age, how does he adapt and navigate? I'm always kind of going back and forth with myself, because where I come from, it's male-led. It really is male-led, but once again, I also say that it's a slippery slope with getting in certain sort of trying to carry out some original practices, because now it's conflated oftentimes with the toxicity of other types of patriarchy. So we have to almost reassess. We have to reassess about not what did they do back then, but what am I going to do now? How am I going to act now? How am I going to respond to the world now, knowing what I know with the changing of society, with the changing of traditional gender norms? And really, I think that it also comes into, from my lived experience, like what you said that it's energies, human beings. We are energetic beings. We are a lot more malleable and adaptable than the social constructs allow us to think. We are very adaptable, malleable, and so that's the beauty of us as human beings, is our nervous system changes and adapts. And when you peel away our heart, when you peel away our mind here, and you peel away all these things, and you look at us as human beings, we are conscious entities. We are spirit consciousness, and we are connected to so much more. This is just a human experience we are having here, but this human experience is also very malleable. So I think that how I navigate that is, first and foremost, yes, is looking at the traditional roles in which what's expected of me in etiquette and how I act in community. And if there's some ways where these cultural ways no longer work because of the grief and the trauma and the infiltration of Western patriarchy, then I shift, I pivot, and I use my own discretion. But again, using your discretion, I believe, requires a spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional wellness, and being able to discern and consult with everyone, all parties in the group. I think that's how I have always kind of gone about these things in my community.
Yeah, I just want to find the best balance in life to be able to. I want to be as successful as I can be. I want to be as strong as I can be. I want to dress as well as I can dress. I want to make as much money as I can make. And at the same time, I want to be the most loyal man to his woman. I want to be the best father I can be. I feel like I grew up seeing those worlds separated, seeing men who have everything, have all the success, but they're out doing who knows what. Or the guy is super loyal to his, wife. He's got all those kids, but what's he got on? What's he doing? Like, So I want to find that blend. I want to break those stereotypes and just be that man who, and be an example to our next generation. I want to be the guy that I always wanted to see. I always saw my dad as my hero. However, he wasn't the best man to my mom. And I'm like, dang, imagine my dad was an incredible husband. Imagine, that's the man I look up to. Where's that guy? I can be that guy. I find so much respect in men who value their family, their home, and they're able to also feed themselves. Tosh was over here telling us last night how he takes time and he goes and he does the deprivation tanks. And I'm like, man, you're a father, you're taking care of your family, you're doing all this, and you're making time to go feed into your individual spirituality. That balance is like, I'm so at awe in that. And I just want to continue to feed that narrative that as men, we can be in both. We can be incredible husbands, we could be successful, and we can be both.
Dope. To answer your question for the gender fluidity and all that stuff, I just want to be a safe place. I just want to be, whatever that means in the moment, I want to be considered safe. And over time, as it might be revealed that something I may be doing or saying isn't safe, then I want to correct that. I just want to be the safe place that I wished I had when I was younger. So I want to be that instead. So that's to answer your question.
Can we keep it here? Because one thing I've been navigating is, first off, I almost had to take a collective breath because the men in our life did do. I like to believe they did the best they could, and there's so much shame and judgment, and so a lot of my cousins, for example, that's who I go to, my cousins, to make sure I'm still proximate to most men, because I can get inside my own bubble around hanging out with you, Eric, and trying to be the best husbands and best partners and best everything. But what do you tell those men that may not have good role models around them, that may have forgot their traditions, that may are just having to be more bravado because they think that's the way to get the acclamation or the love that they're seeking? Like, how do you call in rather than call out those men in our families or in our communities?
Oh, this way over here. First, I don't say nothing unless I had a right to speak, because I just kind of wait and listen first and see if it's even going to be appropriate for me to, interject my whatever I have for anybody else. And then if those organic windows open up for the right to speak, then it's just a matter of loving that person and who they are, and being a safe place for them to also go through the process that, hurt people, and heal people can heal people. So where they're at in their trauma journey may be why they're doing what they're doing. So it's just, being a safe place for them and also treating them with love.
Yeah, I think a big difference maker for people who, haven't really been given the tools or been exposed to the right way, from my experience and what I believe in, connecting to spirit, having those moments of stillness, reflection, the awareness. I think we can find a lot of answers, a lot of direction, a lot of enlightenment when we get in a quiet space. We pray, we connect, and I feel like we can make big steps in those moments, and we can kind of take inventory, reconnect, and re-embrace the way, or re-step into our life in a different way, connecting into that greater power. And I that's my medicine.
Yeah, all that for sure. I agree with, and what that one had said is calling in as well, and or when you get that opportunity, there's a lot of things we observe, of other men in the community that some of it is it depends on the situation that we can come up, and depending on a relationship that we can call them in, and I always believe in leadership. One of the I think leadership across the board, one of the strengths is seeing the strengths in other people, and you zoom in on that strength and you help build that up. Then they're open to you. Then you come in and you say, but right here, I want to also point out what you said, what was done over there, that you could think differently next time. Maybe try this instead, because these people over here didn't like that, and you're kind of bringing in those things. That's kind of what I do with the guys around me when I feel I have that opportunity. And I think even with guys, even through social media, the things I've seen reaching out to men or try to incorporate that as well in that domain, the virtual domain. But I think above all for myself too is I try to display it. I try to live it and show it. You try to model that, show it in community. And a lot of my work as a community health educator, as someone who shares this sorts of content online, I try to be very objective about what I'm showing. I'm showing, other day I showed a video of me and my daughter doing her hair. Most people might think that that's something only a woman does. That that's only women do that, or only gay men do their children's hair, and things like that. But sharing those things and sort of modeling that, and kind of giving people another perspective and insight.
We call that a compliment sandwich, where you compliment and then challenge and then compliment. Like, hey, let's go.
There it is, compliment sandwich. Well, in that same vein. From a practical, if someone's in the audience right now listening or watching at home, what's one practical thing that a person, obviously we're talking about men here, but a person can do to be more centered with self? Like, what's one thing? Was it a ritual? Is it a ceremony? Is it just a practice that each one of you do in your daily life?
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, well, I talk a lot about, I believe everyone carries a fire in them. Everyone has a fire that was attached to us at birth. And as we go through this life here, we experience life. And when we're children, right, our fire is strong. And that's what I learned from my children and working with other children in the community. And when we go through life, sometimes in this society, the conditions that we were raised upon, this materialism, with a complete void of spirituality, it dims that fire. And so now we're stuck in these constructs, and we are stuck not being able to carry out a vision for ourselves. So I always believe we have a fire, and it's about building that fire. Healing and wellness is about building that fire. It's about giving ourselves opportunities and tools to build that fire, because when we have that fire, we share that with other people that are in our sacred circle, people that you love and you cherish, people that you give love to. You use it in your work. These guys use it in his hoop dance. He uses it in his music, and they use it in their ability when they connect with people. You use that in your writing. You use that in your ability to connect with people, and that fire is always there, and it's about building it back up. So I always encourage people to think about that you have that fire, and here, follow me on this, because what we'll do is this. We'll build your fire really quickly for just a second. And just follow right here. Just follow here. And listen to all the sounds in here. You're acknowledging your sense of touch. Go ahead and take your breath in. You're breathing in air and then a long exhale. And you're giving thanks for the air all around us. And you're giving thanks for the beautiful words you're hearing, the beautiful things you're seeing in here, the flavors you had today. You're getting thanks for water, this rain, all these things. You acknowledge all these things right here. Take another deep breath in your nose. Long exhale. And just feel your own fire. Go ahead and hover your hands. And notice that tingling sensation, that friction. And hover those inches and centimeters away. Bounce that fire around right there. And that fire right there, that's the one that was always with you. Shake your head, yeah, if you can feel your fire. That's your power. That's your fire. It was given to you at birth, and no matter how many times you were hurt, no one took that fire away. They couldn't take that fire away from you. It's always with you. Collectively, they didn't take it from us. It's always with us. He didn't take it from you, no matter how many times he did what he did or what she did. Remember, they were hurt when they did those things. So that's your fire right there. And this magnetic energy, you're giving that, in your life. You're giving that in your work and your passion. And so that's a practice I want to share with you that you can do.
It's good.
I loved seeing everyone's expression as they were feeling their own fire, their power.
Man, along the same lines, we all have that inside of us. And I think that society doesn't set us up for success. We're not set up for it. We're not set up to feed that fire. Our technology, our phones, we're always being distracted from looking inwards. And I think that when we find those moments to feed our fire, even what you guys just did, to take a breath, to disconnect, and to understand all of that, to reflect, to understand your story, to understand the decisions you made where everything changed, everything went a different direction, and why. And that's where we find strength that the world doesn't necessarily want us to find, because when we find that, we're unstoppable. And I just want everybody to realize that we all have that inside of us, and it's not mapped out for us, but it's in us, and we've always known it. We just have to get back to it.
Dope. I don't have anything daily that I do. I think I live on a pendulum between hubris and humility, and we're trying to find where to be at on that pendulum between hubris and humility. And self-awareness is the guide. And so it's more not a daily thing, but it's when self-awareness reveals something I need to change or add. That's the practice. But I'm going to start doing that fire, though, because
That was nice.
legit. I needed that today.
That was nice. Unfortunately, we're getting close to time. And I want to thank you for all of your words, but that exercise in particular, Thosh, really showed how connected each and every one of us is. And that regardless of the systems and the structures, that we never lose sight of that fire that's always within us. So really quick, any last words that you want to share before we close the circle?
Oh, I mean, I think that you hit it already with the oneness that's in the room, regardless of constructs, race, gender, et cetera, that fire was within all of us and universal, and that we were all, there it is.
Yeah.
DJ MC1.
Community community. I love Indian country so much. I love our community. I love what Crystal's doing here with Indigenous House. We did a little lunch earlier, and I was telling them the best asset that you guys have is each other, uplifting each other, supporting one another, and that's what they're creating here. We're so powerful together. So, you could look at the person next to you right now and say, I got you. No, literally, do it.
Yeah, a lot of great things to go on and on about. A lot of great things to go on and on about. I love this topic right here, and I encourage all Native men out there in Native country to be the one that's going to step out to look at and address and to acknowledge that things such as a male supremacist ideology that has infiltrated our ways, to acknowledge addiction, depression, and all aggressive behaviors, anxiety, to acknowledge those are just symptoms of our people out of balance. Those are not the problems themselves. The problem is that is out of balance and the infiltration, and the loss and who we were. So I encourage men to get on that healing journey, get on that journey of sobriety from substances, from alcohol, and over reliance on certain natural medicines, and to be able to learn about meditation and ceremony for themselves, building their fire, and then get themselves involved in community and have his vision for himself, have a vision of how he wants to think, feel, and act in the future, and think about all the circles that he's doing in this immediate time here and how they lead up to the goal of longevity for him and for coming generations. So one of the things that I'm doing in my community is revitalizing the men's war club, and it's a purpose. We're repurposing it as a symbol for strength, protectorship, and at the same time addressing things like diabetes, all the metabolic disorders, but helping men to empower. And I've seen men that you would not see step foot in the gym come over into these, because they're looking for that circle, like the stuff that Mike does in LA as well with his men's group. The men are looking for something to gravitate to so they can be in camaraderie. And in this, but we've even welcomed men of the Two-Spirit community that have came in, and other men, see that and they recognize it. They recognize that they too have that need to. They still have masculinity that they still have to express in that. There you go. They have to express that as well. So we embrace that, in there as brothers. So, I encourage men out there in Native country to pick up those what your warriors used to use in those times, and to restore that for a new purpose, a new cause, and ask for help. Ask for help of the women, because some of us are cavemen. We should know, but sometimes we ask. We have to ask. I ask my wife all the time, "What is this? Does this make sense? Did I sound like a misogynist? Do I sound like a caveman when I say this?"
Exactly.
And she corrects me all the time, and so I tell men, just be humble and accept it. It frees you up when you just say, "I don't know the answer to that question." "Oh, I messed up." You're right. That's I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. When you let that go, you free yourself. You take that stress off yourself, that physiological stress that might drive him to drink, to use, to hit, to steal, or whatever. So I encourage men. I tell this to men in our group all the time. To let go, be wrong, be okay with that. Yeah. Be okay on not knowing how to advise something. And to restore that. So I encourage. I think all people in society have a role within this movement too. And I encourage Native women to, also find out how they can be of service to help these men, so the men can help them and children, and things like that. That cycle. Understand that we have a place within that cycle. And once again, that indigenous male ontological identity, his existence, is understanding that he is only because of those that are around him are well. And it's reciprocal in that sense. So I encourage everyone to try to to help these spaces and to encourage us to work together. Lots to say, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, I'll end with three things. First and foremost, I want to make sure that I look each one of you in the eye and just say thank you humbly. I came into this conversation, as I shared, as a father and a son and a husband, and I want to model men also saying I love you, and I thank you humbly. Thank you for you being on your journey.
Thank you.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
You too as well.
The second thing, I just want to say thank you to everybody here. Healing is not a solo journey. Healing only happens when we're in a community. I was able to heal because we were in conversation, but also because all the energy in the room was here. So I want to thank you for being co-participants and panelists in this conversation. And the last thing, I'll just end by saying this. This is why the Indigenous House is so important. Because it's about these kind of conversations and these stories coming to the mainstream. It's about building community like this. But it's really about building a home where we're all being able to be seen and felt and loved. And so thank you all. We're going to close this segment. We're going to open up the blinds and go and have a good time. But thank you, everybody who made this possible, and all of you, and continue to love the men in our lives. So, Ashe.
Aho, aho.
Hold on just a second, everybody. Oh my God, was that beautiful? Let's give him one more round of applause. I really want to take a chance just to thank these three amazing men for coming up here, and we're just so excited to be working with them. But Mike, I want to thank you. This guy's flights got canceled. It was an epic journey, and he got here very early this morning. But I just really, it's one of these things, and kind of the vision for Indigenous House. Mike and I ran into each other recently, and it kind of was like one of those moments where you're running into each other on a 14,000-foot mountain in Aspen for a reason, after we hadn't seen each other for a while. But I just want to say thank you, Mike. And, best-selling author, please pick up Sacred Lessons. Where can they get the book?
I think in the back, actually, they're selling it, I think.
All right. Okay, that's easy. But we're also really excited. Can you just say a couple things about your new podcast that's coming out? It's very exciting.
Yes. So November 10th, I signed a deal with iHeartMedia. It's a 54-episode podcast on men's healing. You said it earlier, Crystal. This last election, they said was won by the podcasters. But we need multiple stories, not one. We need a lot of stories, which is why these stories and these men and all the influencers and creators here, it's so important, because we just need to bombard with good stories about who we are, the complexities, the beauty, the struggles, just life. And so November 10th, Sacred Lessons on iHeart. Thank you very much.
Woo! All right. And with that, enjoy the reception, eat, drink, and be merry. And we're going to be turning it up. All right. Thanks, everybody.